DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
You're tuned in to DJNTV Live with your host, Brian Esred.
Normally we say that.
I would think that's an important thing to be able to, to relate to other cultures because, we are from that upper European area.
There's a lot of influence.
It is. I mean, I just actually saw someone who was talking earlier today and they're like, hey, does anybody know anything about some Swedish background? And it's like, unfortunately, because of where I live, I am not Swedish, but there's many of Swedish traditions and different things that go on. It's like, yeah, actually, I know that very, very well.
You're Norwegian and Swedish and just kind of generally Scandinavian up there, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of that. And I actually, myself, I've got more of a German background. So that means that I know all about the different foods and such that my German grandparents, their parents are the ones who immigrated over, and then they settled into that farming community, and that meant that when I was growing up, I'd go see great grandma and grandma, and they were talking German all the time, which as a little kid was like this. Wow, what's all of this? And it was still early enough that there were many people who were out from the war who were not in that community, and there was this level of animosity towards my grandparents who were from a German community because of the evil things that happened in Germany and those darn and it's like it was just such a weird world and a weird time, and my kids have no idea what that.
I was reading something, and I know we're on the air, so sorry guys. Yeah. I was reading something recently that said 100 years ago, more people spoke German in Milwaukee than English.
I believe that. I definitely believe that.
Predominant language in 100 years ago here in Milwaukee. So,
and how that ties into tonight's topic about DJ Expo, it really doesn't. Not a bit. But hey, you know what? That's what happens when you catch us right in the middle of a conversation about the pre-show. So yeah, that's where we're at. So good evening and welcome. Thank you guys for coming out and being with us tonight. We're going to do two parts to tonight's show. And the first part, we're going to be talking about some things with DJ Expo and what Brian and I are looking forward to, And then the second part, I have got a venue, Brian, that I was at last weekend. And it was this thing that was just caught in a time warp. And I wanted to share some pictures and talk about that a little bit. So that's going to be in our second part of the show tonight. So
the venue that time forgot, I believe, was the title.
Yeah, exactly. And that we'll be separating the two videos. So there'll be your first one. You're going to see the first half hour, and then you'll see the second. And I wanted to have that as two different ones because that was just the darndest thing. So we're going to start off talking about DJ Expo. This is kind of the pre-week for next week's DJ Expo, and Brian, you'll be going. Myself, we just talked to Ben Stowe. He's going to be there. First off, let's kind of What's your schedule like? What kind of things are you looking forward to? Let's just kind of hit the bases.
Well, let's see. Just knowing what I know, I mean, which I kind of go into, I try to go into these shows like everyone else does, like what am I going to see?
Mm-hmm.
But I do know that, well, we just had the conversation with Ben. He's going to be there representing Electro Voice, and they do have some things they're going to be showing. I believe they're going to have the white Evolve 50s there, and some of the other new lines that are coming up from EV are going to be there as well. There's a couple of new things that most people haven't seen yet, unless you were perhaps at another show earlier this year. ADJ has a few things. We talked about the on-tour Phase, which is kind of a neat machine.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to check that out and hopefully see a demo of it. Phase is neat. And I did a video on that this week. If you guys aren't familiar with Phase, it's kind of a compromise between fog and haze. It fills the air quicker than haze, yet kind of has the same effect without the big puffs of clouds of smoke. So they're cool. I like using them for demos. That's pretty much, since I've gotten haze machines, that's all I've used is haze machines for my lighting demos. There's a lot of stuff. There's some other things that are going to be there that I'd like to have a look at. I know that, of course, a Time Speaker Imports will be there. That's the gentlemen that bring you, and ladies and gentlemen who bring you FBT into the US, but they also represent a company called Specco, which is one of my favorite cable companies. They make the best cables at a super reasonable price. They're going to have stuff there. If you guys need cables, good XLR cables, 1/4-inch cables, whatever you need, it's going to be at Expo. You're going to be able to do cash and carry there on that stuff. So look for that. And it's going to be the same place you're going to see all the FBT stuff. I don't know. What do you got, John?
One of the things I'm going to be looking for, you mentioned Electro Voice, and one thing I want to be able to do there is I want to spend a little bit of time, and I'm going to probably have to do this after or before, because I want to have Mike or Ben, whoever's going to be running their multi-channel board, is I really want to spend some time comparing the Evolve to, first off, to the 12 sub and the 10-inch top, that combination. And then I want to compare that Evolve to the 12 top and the 15-inch sub or the 18-inch, the combination there, which would mean I'm going to be going from the ELX 200 series, and then I'll be bouncing into, I want to compare them also to the EKX speakers, just to get a feel, because we've got people who are asking the questions about, someone asked in the first show tonight with Ben of, can the Evolves do XYZ type of events? And I really want to try to get in my head as I'm hearing these, because we listen to the Evolves and they sound pretty awesome and they can do quite a bit. They've got a really good low end, which is really kind of surprising for the size cabinets and things. But I want to try to put them into, for my own personal referral thought process, into kind of a hierarchy that, okay, so they're here and here and here. And I don't know if we'll be able to do that, but it's definitely something I want to try.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to have a sound demo room like that. That's kind of
he did say that, Ben did say they're going to have downstairs a little, kind of a, like a, the sign here, a little 10 by 10 or whatever, and saying, go up to our demo room. So they do have one.
Oh, right on. Yeah, that'd be cool.
So
it'd be very cool. They check that out.
Yeah, so we'll definitely be able to do some things up there. It's just, we'll have to, that's when you and I will probably go in there earlier or later in the day, because of it being a demo room, we can go in at any time, which is absolutely fabulous, because we can go in and shoot something at 7:00 at night. Everyone else is gone.
That's true. We can do that.
Yeah, and that's.
I'll probably do that. So
yeah, so that way we can get a better audio. We can ask questions, the kind of questions you guys are wanting to ask. The ones that we see all the time. It's like, hey, does this do this? Does this do this? Now, when we have Mike Dussault and Ben standing there together, if one can't answer the question, the other one can, and if both of them can't answer the question, it probably doesn't have an answer.
It's not like we don't know a guy or girl or two who's going to be involved, so I think we could probably pull off whatever we want there. So that'd be fun. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
If they're having that, let's do that after hours. That'd be really cool. I'll go in with you.
So yeah, that'll be, and maybe we can even do that as our Ben's Tuesday night with Ben Stowe next week. Maybe we'll do a joint.
We can blend them together. Yeah,
we'll just do that. That would be kind of a fun thing to do. So I'm really looking forward to that. There's going to be some new gear, as you mentioned, and that we haven't seen before in the DJ industry. There's going to be some ADJ's got some new things coming out. Chauvet's got some new things that they're going to be displaying that they've talked about a little bit. We've got Denon, who's going to be having some new things that are going to be out. Pioneer's got some things that they're going to be showing at the show. Roland just sent out a press release not a press release, a media inquiry that Roland has got some new things that they're going to be releasing at the show.
Roland's had some neat stuff.
They have.
I don't have any of it, but the stuff I see, I'm like, 808, are you kidding me? Wow, this is kind of neat.
Yeah, very, very neat.
I'm 47 years old. Of course I'm going to like that. But
I played with it a little bit and looked at it. It's like, wow, this has got a lot of functionality. And I'm looking at it and it's like, there's way more than I would. And now that I've spent more time playing with the bigger boards, okay, so I would feel a little more comfortable looking at it today than I did, when it first came out. But I watched someone like even my 15-year-old who's using things on that Denon 8000 that I never touched. He's going, yeah, I've got all this program to do this, and I've got this. That younger generation, they just look at that as as like an extension of themselves when they're performing. So at times it's like, oh yeah, we look at all that and it's like, wow, I don't need all those buttons. Yeah, well, to a point, we're not the next generation of DJs coming up. Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, I'm looking forward to going and seeing old friends and making new friends. It's always wonderful to go to a show and see old friends. And, sometimes, unfortunately, what happens is I end up spending so much time with my old friends, I don't make any time for new friends.
Yeah.
So I want to make it a point at this show to talk to some new friends and spend some time and get to know them and how, maybe I can help them and see what's going on. Because once you have old friends, you start talking about other things. And I do want to spend time with old friends. Don't take that the wrong way, but I do want to make time for new friends too.
And part of that getting together with old friends was one of the ideas why Howie and Jimmy have been working on that Tuesday night kind of gathering.
Yes.
And that's going to be actually what we're going to do. I think I can... Let's see if I'm gonna run a spot here for you guys to check out here. This is what Howie and Jimmy have been putting together for the insiders and such, and and some of the Video Cave folks who will be at Expo. So that's going to be happening Tuesday night at the Irish Pub. Now, I went through and did the map thing, on Atlantic City, because we're over at Harrah's. That's where the main activities are going on. And then the Irish Pub's like down on the boardwalk, which is, I think, 2.7 miles if you were going to walk it. Way more than most people would want to walk. I get that. It's a 47-minute walk. I checked it out. So it's a cab ride. It's probably going to be about a $10, $12 cab ride, but whatever it's going to be, I'm not even sure. Uber might be. I don't know if they would think they have Uber out there.
Oh yeah,
yeah, they've got Uber. So that'll be down there. More importantly, White House subs. I from what I'm seeing, it looks like they might be open back in the Hard Rock there.
Oh yeah,
which means that this is about as close to the Hard Rock, because it's about I think it's a half-mile walk back to the Hard Rock. But it's like, okay, so the Harrah's is way up here, and then you go way down here to the Irish Pub, way over here to the White House subs there, or the original White House subs way over there. It's like an hour, if you were going to walk, it's like an hour walk to the White House subs, and then it's, I may not get to White House subs just because it's going to be a drive to get there this year. I'm so disappointed. So another, as we were talking about the demo room with Evie a little bit, that's another area in which I really want us to kind of focus, because the question always comes is more wedding DJs are getting into doing smaller events. We've talked about the smaller weddings. We don't run into the 400-person weddings anymore.
Right.
That, what would someone, Mike Dussault, who works with these speakers every day, and he's talking to people who are using them out in the field, which speakers are going to be applicable to a certain application. And I think that's something that is overlooked quite a bit.
Yeah, I think so too. Like those Evolve 50s, as far as I'm concerned, those are social event speakers. And what I'm considering like a social event would be a wedding reception or a corporate event. essentially what I'm talking about is any situation where you have multiple things happening within one space. So your dance floor is in front of you, and then back here is perhaps the bar, and over here is more conversation area or seating areas. So with those Evolve 50s, what's cool about them is the dispersion is wonderful. So you can hear it. I think it's 120-degree dispersion. You can hear it from all over the place. It's not like if you're sitting next to the system, you can't hear what's going on. Be it an announcement or music, you can hear it. But what's also cool about these is that they're not traveling full force to the back of the room. So you're going to be able to have your conversation areas back there. So it's nice that way for dispersion and for, still kind of having that general hotspot near the dance floor for your bass and even your highs and mids. Whereas if you were doing something like a 250 person to 300 person school dance, you could probably get away with them, but you might be better off with a more traditional PA because, your throw might be a little further on those. Mm-hmm. You might be firing forward a little more. You might want to fill the entire room with even sound a little more, and you might want to feel that sound a little more. So when we're talking about, the tool for the job, that's kind of how I look at it. Now, you could do a wedding, no problem, with, a regular set of traditional, a regular PA system, traditional PA system, a two-way top, subwoofer type of thing. But those Evolve 50s and those arrays are just amazing for those social events. They're just perfection, and they look nice, and like I said, that dispersion really makes a difference.
It does
for those types of events, so people sitting next to you get that coverage. There's so many. I mean, when was the last time you did a wedding when there were people who just couldn't hear announcements? Not particularly from me, I know how to talk on a mic, but when we're talking about maid of honor, the best man who has the microphone, that they can't hear, and they just look confused, and they start having conversations amongst themselves because they don't feel like they're a part of things.
Yes.
You don't get that with these compact arrays because the dispersion is so good. So for that reason, I love them. And also, they don't seem to throw as far as a traditional PA as far as volume into a room. In my experience, and then also with that throw we're talking about, if you want to fill a room with sound, maybe you don't want to go with the 12-inch subwoofer at that point. Maybe you want to go with a 15. Maybe 18. Okay, maybe that's a little much. And some people argue that it's not. They say 18s are good, but my friend Art was just here before the broadcast. He was borrowing a Gobo projector, and he's using he has been for a long time. He's been using my RCF 705 subwoofers.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. They're a 15-inch subwoofer. They're not the most wicked subwoofer that RCF had built at the time, but they're good. And he was replacing some big, I think there were Sherwin Vegas he had.
Okay.
And it's a real refined bass, right? But we were just having the conversation upstairs before he left, and he said, I love those 705s. And when I first got them, I thought to myself, this is smaller than what I had, but it fills the room nicely. He says, I'm rethinking that. I think it's too much for what I'm doing. The 200-person quinceañera or the wedding reception, I need some 12s.
And that's interesting because Art is typically playing as you're saying the Latin events, my experience or my immediate thought is that I'm playing a lot of dance type music where it has a thump and it has that non-50s, 60s type music. So I would think that the heavier bass would be much more desirable for him.
Well, it is. When he's doing, like, we have a place here called Serb Hall, and they do, I think it's like 1,100 people or 1,025 or something ridiculous like that for a capacity. It's a big room. Mm-hmm. For that room, yeah, they're fine. No problem. But he's also doing a lot of Latin weddings or mixed Latin English weddings and smaller, more intimate, more elegant quinceañeras. We've done them before together. I've done photo booth and he's been the DJ.
Yeah.
There aren't 1,000 people there. So why bring a sound system for 1,000 people? It's too much. It's way too much. It becomes more of a social event than a giant Latin dance party.
That makes sense. Okay.
Just like really a wedding reception would. So he's learning this as he's going, and it took me time to learn it too. That, you know what, maybe I'm going overkill on this. Maybe I'm not serving my client well with throwing this heavy bass in the back of the room.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben Stowe can explain it a lot more eloquently than I can. I can just speak from my experience. 15-inch subwoofers are too big for weddings for me. They're just too much because I've walked around rooms, 150-person capacity rooms, nothing massive, just walked around rooms. I've gone on the dance floor and I thought, okay, it sounds fine. And then I go to the back of the room, like the very back of the room, and the bass is sweet. It sounds so good back there. It's like, well, why is this? Well, the bigger the sub, the lower the frequency it'll produce typically. I mean, typically.
Yep. Oh, yeah, it can produce frequencies that, way below our hearing.
The lower frequencies, like the, 60, 50, 40 hertz stuff, it takes further for this signal to travel into a room and mature and go pop than it does something, I don't know, 80, 70, something like that. That stuff tends to stay more towards where your dance floor is. So if you bring in like a 12-inch subwoofer, you're not going to produce those 40 hertz bass frequencies typically. I mean, I don't believe you are.
Yeah, I mean, you're not moving as much air to really make those drive across the room.
Yeah, but only dogs can hear that stuff anyway. Nobody's going to miss it if you don't hear it. So if you're just producing the bass that's going to keep it, I don't know. Ben can talk about this a lot more eloquently than I can, but all I can tell you is that my 12s have done me well. They've done me proud. I can do multiple 12s and have nice full bass where I want it, opposed to crazy low frequency bass where I don't want it.
Yeah.
And this is just on a layman's setup. This is just on, subs and tops where our system is set up. I'm sure there's something you can do where you can place them somewhere else in the room, and there are other things that can be done. But just for the simplicity of things, the 12s just seem to be the way to go on these. They really do for these social events. And the arrays have the 12s. Typically, that's what you've got on these compact arrays.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I think. Everyone has a variation with that 12 on there, and it does match up well. There's no question. We've listened to the FBT, the Evox, the Evolve, and the Maui version. I mean, there's just...
Well, the Maui 5 Go is actually an 8-inch.
Yeah, that's an 8. But the Maui has, what is it? The Maui 12, I think is the... Yeah. And so every company's got them, and they've got their place. There's no question about it. Jimmy mentioned, of course, the Avante 10s for a little quick system. And I got to think that for a lot of applications, that 10-inch, and not even just Avante, because there's 10-inch in other lines and other families, but the 10-inch cabinets today are so much more than 12-inch cabinets were 10 years ago, for sure. It's just amazing how that technology has just evolved and changed. And
Right. Well, I found that most of the music that I play at the type of events that I do, mid bass is king.
Yeah.
It just that's what drives the music. The lower frequency bass is kind of more of the kid stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean,
the hip hop and there is other music, don't get me wrong, but that real low frequency stuff is so important in other types of music, I guess. So if you're just going to run tops, 12's always, I think, the best way to go, because 12s just seem to produce better mid bass than anything else, just because of physics. But 10 works fine too. The modern 10s are really nice.
Yeah.
And the Avante stuff is surprisingly cool, especially at the price point.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to step up to 12s, I think it's only a $20 difference.
Yeah, they're really, it's all in that same price
From
point.
like $379 map, $379 map to $399 map between the 10 and the 12. So for $40, you can step into a 12 if you wanted to. But if you wanted it small, compact, and lightweight, and you want to save the weight, get the 10s, and no one's going to say, hey, I didn't hear that frequency I wanted to hear when you played at my event. No one's going to say that. Not for the small stuff. So they're a cool speaker for exactly that. And then if you have an event where you feel like that you want to go ahead, light up your mid bass even more, and you want to create more of a sub feel on the floor, add a single 12-inch sub to the mix, or two if you want to.
Yep.
EV makes some nice ones. FPT makes a wicked one. What is it? Subline 118 SA. That thing is evil. I got one right down here under my desk. And that thing is barely turned on. If I turned it up to 1, I would cause structural damage in my home. And this is a 12-inch subwoofer. This thing is just evil.
Moves a lot of air.
Oh my God. It acts like a 15.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. See all the stuff at Expo too. It's going to be there. So you can check this stuff out and give it a listen, ask questions. Your I guess, what do you call them? Product specialists will be there. You'll also have a lot of company heads there that are coming in from some of these other companies, the people who are actually the president of the company or the development people. You're going to be able to ask questions. People like Mike D. We're talking about an EV. I mean, great guy to talk to for any questions you have about EV. And he's a cool guy. He'll talk to you.
Oh, for sure.
Ben Stowe, wealth of knowledge. He'll talk to you. And there are folks even over at Avante that you can talk to. Chuck Green and JC is like one of the guys who helped develop those.
Yeah, we'll get to see both the guys next week, and I'm hoping that the last time I talked to Chuck, they were working on their version of an array system from Avante.
They got something coming. Day and Night was asking what sub I was talking about earlier. It's an FBT subline 112 SA. And they make a 115 and a 118 as well, but that 1112 is pretty evil. So the old one was the subline 12 SA, and it was fine, but they redesigned it for the 1112 SA, and that thing is evil.
Scott Carroll mentioned, of course, that they've got the shorter poles out, which if you guys watched my video earlier today, I was practicing with a computer system that would be possibly used next week. And in that, I was talking about the Evox. The RCF has 2 different poles in their bag, so that with their version. And that's something that I ran into a situation last Friday, which I'll talk about in the next show, where that was important. So the Evolves have got their shorter pole, and that's something, if you have white or black, doesn't matter, go buy those editions. You're going to find the event where those are going to help you. It's not as required, and I'll talk about that in the next show also, as it is with the RCF. The RCF, it's more mandatory to have different size poles than it is with the Evolve, and we'll talk about that in a bit. It's just a difference in speakers and such. Let's see. Brian, I'm going to let you tackle this next question. I've got to go grab my laptop from around the corner, the one that Jesse Lamel asked about. What's more important to you, portability or sound quality when it comes to these smaller systems?
Okay.
So riff on that, because I know where you're going to go with it, and I'm going to go grab my laptop. I'll be back in about 30 seconds.
He knows me so well. He can finish my sentences for me. It's a bit of both. I mean, I'm going to have to say, for me, the necessity is portability. But because that's such a necessity, it's a bit more of a challenge to maybe sometimes find the sound quality as well. So, for instance, portability-wise for a battery-powered speaker for a long time, for me, was an American Audio ELSCO 8BT. It's small, it's compact, it's battery-powered. It's a $200 speaker. Does it sound like a $1,000 speaker? No, it's not. But it's small, compact, portable, and it's manageable. It's battery-powered. Now, I've graduated to the LD Systems Melly 5 Go, which not only is compact and portable, but it sounds incredible. Now, granted, we went from a $200 speaker to a $900 speaker, but you get what you pay for. So, but anymore, really, the truth is that a lot of this new stuff that's coming out, so much of it is lightweight, portable, and it sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
If you're refusing to pay what you need to pay for something that's quality, and you end up with something meh. That's just how it is. But yeah, I think you need both. But you need to establish what you can actually handle. And for me, I can't handle anything heavy by myself, so it's going to be portability. And then I have to seek something that's not only portable but quality.
And I can definitely see a difference between myself and my sons when they want to go and do a dance. They don't care about portability because they're young. They're young and they're like, yeah, let's bring all the subs. It's like, dude, you're playing in a 2-car garage. Yeah, can we get more subs? Do you think we can rent some, Dad? There's not enough bass. It's like, okay, so 4 18-inch subs is not enough?
In a garage, yeah. Well, there's plenty of bass 3 blocks away, but there's nothing in the garage because you're running 18s.
It's blowing it right on out because, there's those wavelengths that are at like 10 and 12 feet in length. They're only like, they're out. They're gone.
Right, they're gone. It's not even in the garage anymore, It's like, live outdoor sounds kind of like that too. So
yeah, that it is. Let's see. There was something else I wanted to hit before we wrapped up. So the schedule for next week, just to remind, we'll be at DJ Expo. Tuesday, Wednesday is really the 2 big days that the exhibit. It's open Thursday also, but Tuesday and Wednesday are the big days where the traffic and the craziness and everything. Both Brian and I are going to be bringing you live updates from DJ Expo as we can. We just heard last night from Shaney, who had talked to someone who was just there for an event, that the internet at Harris sucks. If that's the case, we're going to be shuttling back up to our rooms and hoping the room has better internet and doing things that way. So if you're not hearing much from us earlier on the day on Tuesday, it's because of internet. And you'll know, we'll talk about it already on Monday night when we get to do our shows. But we're going to try to bring you, the overviews and such of the shows because this year, I think, and I think, Brian, you were kind of talking about this. Yeah, we're going to try to push things out a little bit quicker to kind of tell the story of what's going on at Expo because sometimes
if we can.
Yeah.
If we can. I mean, I would love to be able to have video up Tuesday night.
Yeah, exactly. So
I got a lot going on. I mean, I've got to, probably after the gathering, go home and just go up to my room and dig in with a coffee and hopefully a decent internet connection and just upload, man. I want to show people what's going on in real time. I don't want to have to wait till I get home to show things. I'd rather post there if I can. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, ideally, if we can do it on the fly, that would be excellent. Mobile hotspot doesn't help one iota in these situations because you're in a building that has
everybody's using
and it's blocked. I've got 2 different mobile hotspots that I have with me, plus the cell phone and the iPad. And interesting thing.
It's kind of like going to NAM.
Yeah,
trying to send a text message. You can't do it.
Yeah, you just get lucky once in a while, and then it doesn't.
Yeah. You got Disney right next door, which, by the way, Disney must have some kind of phone blocker because you can't send a text or get a call or post a picture or anything from Disney.
Yeah,
it's just awful there.
Those buggers.
So when you put a lot of people in a space like that, it just gets ugly.
Yeah, that it does. So that'll be Tuesday. We're going to try to do some things. And again, we'll be at the DJNTV kind of get together. That starts at 9 o'clock at the Irish Pub. You guys saw that spot just a few minutes ago. You can check that out on Tuesday night. And that's where we will be at some point in time. There's things that we have to kind of hit here and there to make our way there. And then we'll be hanging out for a little while on Tuesday night and take it from there. So I think, gang, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up this segment and we're going to put an end here, and then we're going to have like about a 2-minute break between this and the next segment. We're going to let it roll on YouTube. So if you guys want to go grab yourself a beverage, we're going to just do the end stuff, and then we're going to do the beginning stuff of the next one, and that beginning of the next one is going to be recorded, so that way we can break it apart and use that as a later show. Does that make sense?
Something like that.
Something like that. Okay.
Let's do this.
Okay. So, gang, we'll be back in just about 2 minutes. Thanks.